so now let's connect those incredibly rich culinary roots directly to the global market realities.
Right.
Because the transition from a local catch to a global powerhouse, that's a story of policy, of investment, and just intense quality control. The sheer volume that India produces is staggering.
Yeah, let's put that scale into perspective. Where does India actually stand in the global hierarchy of seafood producers?
Okay, so if we synthesize the rankings, the dominance is pretty clear. India currently ranks as the third largest fish producer worldwide, which is a monumental achievement, especially considering the vast domestic population they also have to feed.
Third largest, wow.
But the story gets more nuanced. If you look specifically at aquaculture, that's farmed fish and shellfish, India jumps to the second largest producer globally.
So they're a massive player in farming.
A massive player. And overall, if you combine both wild capture fisheries and aquaculture, India stands as the fourth largest seafood producer in the world.
That is an immense production base. And importantly, this isn't just for domestic consumption anymore, right? A lot of this is specifically geared for high-value global markets.
Absolutely. India is a leading supplier of quality seafood to over 100 countries. But the export flagship item, the product that truly defines its economic power in this sector, is frozen shrimp. This one product is a massive, massive export earner.
The numbers must back that up. Can you quantify just how big this trade has become?
The data is really compelling. In a recent fiscal year, India shipped nearly 1.8 million metric tons of seafood. And that quantity was valued at over $7 billion US.
$7 billion?
$7 billion. And to put that into context for our American listeners, a huge amount of that is shrimp. India supplies around 40% of the total shrimp consumed in the American market.
40%. So 4 out of every 10 shrimp cocktails or shrimp scampi dishes that we eat here in the U.S. could trace their origin back to an aquaculture farm in India.
It's very likely. That level of market penetration just underscores the extraordinary trust that's been built, especially given the stringent import requirements of the FDA.
Yeah, no kidding. And that volume is a testament to consistency and quality. But $7 billion isn't a ceiling, is it?
Not at all. The trade ambition is extremely high. Policymakers are aiming to expand exports aggressively to $12 billion in the near future.
Okay, but hitting a $12 billion goal, that can't just be about selling more raw frozen shrimp. That must require a major strategy shift.
It does. And the core strategy involves focusing less on bulk commodities and making a big pivot towards high-end markets and, crucially, value-added products. That's where the profit margins are much higher.
So we're talking about a transition from just selling the basic ingredient to selling a finished, convenient consumer product.
Precisely. They are deliberately tailoring products to suit the convenience culture of European and North American consumers. So we're seeing much more than just raw frozen fish. We're seeing, marinated, spiced, and breaded options, ready-to-heat curries, pre-cooked portions, all designed to be super easy for a busy consumer.
That is a massive economic shift. But it all depends on one thing: absolute confidence in the quality and safety of the product.
Yes.
So this brings us to the quality control regimes. How did India build this gold standard of trust?
This is, I would argue, the most critical part of the whole story. They didn't just passively accept international standards. They actively adopted and strictly enforced extremely rigid controls. Because one major failure, one slip-up, could lead to an immediate market ban.
So what specific standards are we talking about?
Well, they strictly comply with the internationally recognized Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point Standards, or HACCP, in all their processing units.
HACCP, right?
For a facility to be certified, it has to identify every potential hazard, biological, chemical, physical, at every single step of the process, and then maintain detailed daily documentation proving that those points are monitored. It requires huge investment and a really sophisticated understanding of food safety science.
And who's enforcing all of this inside the country?
The regulatory backbone is multi-layered. Oversight comes primarily from the Marine Products Export Development Authority, or MPDA, and the Export Inspection Council, the EIC. MPDA regulates, inspects, and certifies every single aspect of production destined for export. And then the EIC provides that final quality stamp on the consignments.
The modern consumer, especially here, they don't just demand quality anymore. They demand traceability. They want to know exactly where their food came from.
It's a non-negotiable expectation now, and India has invested heavily in comprehensive traceability systems. These systems can track the seafood from the initial catch, or in aquaculture, from the seed and the feed, all the way through the processing plant and the cold chain to the container that's shipped out.
And for farmed seafood, which is the cornerstone of that $7 billion shrimp export, the risks are different. You're worried about contaminants, antibiotics.
Right, and aquaculture is intensely monitored. It's regulated through the National Residue Control Programs, or NRCP. This is an extensive screening protocol that targets contaminants like heavy metals, pesticides, and, crucially, veterinary drug residues. They take thousands of samples a year.
I know the European market is particularly tough on antibiotics in shrimp. It's a huge issue globally. What has India done specifically to guarantee access to that very lucrative EU market?
That's the standard that demands the highest level of commitment. All aquaculture consignments heading to Europe are subjected to the Pre-Harvest Test Program, or PHT.
Pre-harvest, so they test it before it even leaves the pond.
Exactly. And that timing is so critical. It's a proactive measure. If contamination is detected, the entire pond is rejected at the source before it even enters the processing chain. This prevents contaminated batches from accidentally mixing with safe ones later on. It's a much, much higher safety standard.
So it's not just about catching the fish. It's about ensuring the entire infrastructure from the farm gate to the shipping container is flawless.
Absolutely. The emphasis on advanced freezing technologies, like individual quick freezing and efficient cold chain logistics, is what seals the deal. They have to guarantee that the product retains its pristine freshness and nutritional value upon arrival in distant markets. That logistical excellence is what transforms a local commodity into a high-value global product.
And that rigorous focus on freshness and quality, it translates directly into what we experience on the plate, which is, ultimately what sells the product. So let's shift back to the culinary landscape and dive into some of the iconic dishes that are fueling this global curiosity. We can start with a classic technique that's been adapted perfectly for seafood: tandoori fish.
Tandoori fish is often the ideal entry point for international diners because the concept of the tandoor, that clay oven, is already globally understood, and it's immediately recognizable for that vibrant, bright orange or red color that comes from the specific blend of chili, paprika, and turmeric in the marinade.
It's a visually stunning dish. Walk us through the technique, because it's this brilliant contrast of super high heat and moisture preservation.
The technique relies on two critical steps. First, the intense marinade, which is this thick paste of yogurt, ginger garlic, lime juice, and heavy mix of spices. And the acidity from the yogurt and lime juice is functional. It tenderizes the fish slightly before it even hits the heat.
And the tandoor oven itself is incredibly hot.
Incredibly. It can reach 400, 500 degrees Celsius. That intense, dry heat creates this smoky, charred exterior almost instantly, while locking all the moisture inside so the fish stays incredibly succulent. It's usually served with grilled onions and peppers, and some high-end versions even feature cheese-filled fish, which is a really decadent touch.
Okay, moving back to the coast, we have to talk about that powerful Goan Portuguese heritage, particularly the famously fiery and complex prawn vindaloo.
Vindaloo has become almost synonymous with just pure heat internationally, which is a bit unfair. The original Goan version is defined just as much, if not more, by its tanginess and acidity. It comes from a Portuguese dish, carne de vinhos, which was meat marinated in wine vinegar and garlic.
And how did that evolve into the dish we know today?
Well, in coastal India, they substituted indigenous palm vinegar for the wine vinegar. They combined that vinegar, garlic, and a substantial amount of dried red chili into this thick, intense paste that becomes the base for the curry. The vinegar provides that sharp, almost pickling quality.
Which was originally for preservation.
Right, before refrigeration. And that quality is still reflected in how it's appreciated today. There's a coastal tradition that says it tastes better as it ages, just like a pickle. The spices just deepen and meld over time. And while it's famously made with pork, using prawns gives this wonderful sweet contrast to that fiery, acidic sauce.
Another Goan staple is simply called prawn Goan. And this dish seems to perfectly illustrate the genius of using hyper-local ingredients. It's basically made from fish and coconut, the two most abundant things in Goa.
It's a very versatile curry. It uses a fish stock base and coconut milk, often incorporating local spices like fiery red biadagi chilies and the distinct sourness of kokum. And the beauty is its adaptability. You can have it with prawns, shark, mussels, any local whitefish. It's a real dish of place, defined by its geography.